This lecture covers a very important aspect of requirements engineering, involving right persons who can affect or are affected by the software system. These persons are stakeholders of the system. We will learn why involving stakeholders is so important, and we'll look at different stakeholder types so that we can find all stakeholders relevant to a specific software system. First thing to know about stakeholders is that stakeholders are main source for requirements. Three main types of stakeholders that are present in any software development project are: first, client. This is a person or an organization that requests software system and directly or indirectly benefits from it. Second is supplier. This is a person or organization that develops software system. And third, external persons. Any other persons or organizations that can impact or are impacted by the system. Can be regulators, partners, government, professional communities, competitors, and so on. Note that in some cases, client and user are two different stakeholders. For example, when client provides software service to other users, but do not use software by himself. So, stakeholder is any person or an organization that has direct or indirect influence on the requirements. We define stakeholders early in software development project, prioritize stakeholders by relevance and importance, and we definitely should know stakeholders who can stop a project or who will be main user of a system, and work with them closely through whole development process. In case of stakeholder is some organization or group of persons, we need to define representative who will represent interests from this group point of view. But we also need to be sure that this representative will work with other persons in a group, not just communicate his or her personal opinion. Client is main stakeholder. For client, it is never enough to have just one representative, as there are several important subgroups of client stakeholders and we should involve each of them. First subgroup is the buyer, the one who pays for the system. Often, this stakeholder is related with time and budget constraints. Second subgroup is direct user. We also have several of them, but all direct users are very different users who will directly use system, so directly communicate with the system. For direct users, we need to define primary users of the system so that we are able to prioritize requirements. So primary user groups are main users of the system, users we are building system for. These users actively use system and perform tasks that are important for business goals we want to achieve. We also might consider secondary user groups. These are additional users who maybe does not use system often or who uses the system for other, not business goals related tasks. For example, system administrators are secondary user groups. And third one, unwelcome user groups. For security risks, we also need to define which users can potentially be harmful for system as a whole or for some functions in the system, and we should restrict access to these users. And the third group of client stakeholders are indirect users. These users who are not using system directly, but are using artifacts that are produced by the system. Often management is indirect users, as they do not use system themselves, but ask for different types of reporting. For government system, citizens might not be direct users, but they definitely receive different types of services produced by government systems. When defining users of the system, we should group users according to users' characteristics. These characteristics can affect what functionality and how these users will use. Here are following potential factors that can have impact on system usage. First, tasks. Tasks user will perform in the system. This is which functionality they will use. Second, access rights. So what access restrictions user have. Third, IT knowledge. IT knowledge and experience users have. And domain knowledge, same for domain knowledge and experience. Also usage frequency. This is how often users use the system. And last one, used technology. What devices, platforms, other software users use. So we split users according to tasks they use in the system and access rights they have. For example, there might be 3 main groups: management, administrators, and business process executors. These define which functions we need in the system. Each of these groups will have their requirements for the system's functionality. And then, for each of these groups, we also define characteristics for majority of users in the group: IT and domain knowledge, usage frequency, and use technology. And these characteristics define how these functions to be implemented in the system. For example, if we find out that majority of users are novice both in IT and domain, we definitely need to add more context help, additional support, and clarification of domain-weighty specific terms, and also ask for confirmation. And vice versa, IT professional with high competence in domain will seek for efficiency. They don't need clarification, they don't need confirmation. They need different types of fast actions, shortcuts, personalization, and so on.